Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Sound Money Matters Live. This is Daniel Diaz, your host, and we have a great episode for you today. We're going to be talking about the future of physical silver, supply shocks, and minting realities with a special guest, Abe Day from the Oz Mint. Abe, welcome to the show.
Great to be with you, Daniel. I'm glad we could connect on this.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've both heard of each other for a while, and it just so happened that we were connected with by Rob Keynes. We have Rob Keynes on the show regularly, and he's like, "Hey, I want to introduce you to this guy named Abe. We're trying to do some things with Kinesis and see if we can help you out with your coin shop." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he kept saying, "Abe, Abe, Abe." I'm like, "Is that Abe Day?" And we met actually for the first time at the Fun Show on Saturday. So that was great to meet you finally.
Yeah, it was great to do the connection. I know about your group and all in the background, and your name sounded familiar. So and we know the same people. We found out, so it was great to connect.
Yeah, absolutely. So, our late founder Jim Forsyth, for new guests on our channel, he always asked two questions, and the first question he asked all our guests was, "Why is sound money important?"
Okay, so sound money is important because it is consistent with natural law, meaning that you shouldn't encroach upon persons or their property. There's only been two natural laws ever discovered. There might be more, but if any civilization wants to prosper, they have to go under two laws. And the first one is do all you've agreed to do. So it's the basis of contract law and some tort law. And then the second natural law that they've discovered is do not encroach upon other persons or their property, and that's the basis for criminal law, and it's the basis for society, families. If people, all religious laws, all secular laws that are good will fall under one of those two. And so if people want to not steal from others, they need to give somebody for their labor and their time or their property a fair medium of exchange. So that's to me what sound money is, and what that means is that it's gonna be a form of money that is going to be that store of value, because what money is in general, it is going to be a store of value. And so and if you don't want it to inflate away or be destroyed, and your economy to destroyed, you want it to keep its value. So economy is two things. It's and one is you cannot control it. It's impossible to control because it's based on what you and I and our preferences are in an exchange. And so what motivates me is completely individual. The most complex discovery in the universe is the human brain. There's nothing more complex. And if you try to predict what people are going to buy with their time and their labor and their desires, it's impossible to predict. And so that's half the economy, just the exchange between free people. The other half is money. And so if people are in the middle of that and it's not sound money, and somebody's taking a portion of that because of they're the one deriving those monies, then they can steal from each other. And stealing is a universal law that you don't want to encroach on. And the reason why is because it de-incentivizes anybody from doing an exchange and demotivates it. And so you are not only stealing from the individual, but you're going to be stealing from the overall economic value of the whole world, because people are a little bit demotivated from going to work, knowing at some level that their money or their store of labor is being taken by someone behind the scenes, or just the natural occurrence of things that aren't going to be valuable because they're going to decay over time. And it's going to cause weird trading and misbehaviors in people to, overcome that. Like, for example, they might know that in exchange for feathers, yeah, they're valuable for a short season, but they want to get rid of them before they lose their luster and then disintegrate over time. So that's kind of my understanding. Is why sound money is important in a nutshell.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that we always teach and say. We say that gold and silver are freedom, and fiat currency is theft. In fact, I say that fiat currency, the current monetary system, is enslavement of the human race because of something you said. It incentivizes us to actually have to constantly chase after that loss of purchasing power or that rat race. We're constantly chasing that inflation to keep up with it because, well, the dollar in all fiat currency is just a theft mechanism to steal our economic energy. So before we get into the physical silver markets, the supply shocks, and like some insider information, because not only are you a refiner, you run a mint, and you have a bullion business, so you kind of see it in all angles. The next question that our late founder asked, and I think our audience wants to know. Tell us about your background. Who are you? How did you come up with the Oz Mint? Like, tell us.
So yeah, to my core, I guess I'm an entrepreneur, and maybe I didn't have those words when I was a kid, but I always like the possibilities of what you can do with your talent sets and business. But from a young age, I discovered I really enjoyed doing art and design. And so when I got into school trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I also wanted to be a storyteller. So filmmaker. And so I was trying to get into that. But I kept finding this talent set that people would keep leaning on me, even when I was young. They wanted to give me scholarships for the artwork, and it came very easy to me to do art and design and creation. And so I'd always be drawing pictures. I remember when I was 14, somebody wanted me to do them a children's book, um, and how hard that was for me to put that kind of pressure on a kid, and how I had to deal with critiquing. But anyways, and so when I was young, I served as a missionary, and then I was picking a career. I could see it in the digital realm. It's like, oh, what am I going to do when I get back from this service? And so when I got to school, I found it was really expensive at the time to be a filmmaker, and I also liked the art side. And I picked the two most expensive majors at the time because there was no such thing as digital media at that time. It was just, I guess it was very new. I remember the computers that we were using at that time were $30,000 a piece from SGI. And so, but I had to kind of pick a lane, and so I decided to pick a 3D art illustration lane. And so from that, I got into the video game industry. So I ended up working for a bunch of video game startup companies like Engineering Animation, then Kodiak Games, and then Avalanche Studios out of Salt Lake City, that eventually were bought out by Disney. So I've worked on a lot of Disney titles, and so ultimately I was a Disney product developer and principal artist for doing their characters and some of their level designs. And so I worked in the software video game industry for Disney for about 25 years of my life, and then and that was fun because used the highest level of technology, plus worked on AAA products. But in doing that kind of work, I kept trying to do side hustles, and I wanted out of working for people. And so I would do freelance work. I started my own company working for Sony, for DreamWorks, doing some of their artwork. But then when you're doing the illusion of life, you have to do an extraordinary amount of research to recreate it. Because when you're doing AAA titles, you have to know how everything works, how anatomy works, how science works, how everything works. And I found myself researching about 6 hours a day, like forever. And then as soon as YouTube came out, it was actually YouTube and Google. Google Video was before they merged, right? And so people were posting all these videos on different conspiracies, different things like that, 9/11 videos, truth videos. And I also, I didn't, my late father, and I think he had passed away by this time, when I was waking up to some of these things that were being posted. I had a natural instinct that something was not right about certain things. And so it was very easy for me to see what was going on, but it was hard to piece the pieces together. And when I pieced what I was researching together, there was a monetary component at the bottom of it. I'm like, I cannot believe that we are ruled by a private central bank that has not even been audited. And I remember the day I went down to a local bank. I said, "Hey, did you know?" Like, I thought everybody was going to tell me, "Yeah, welcome to the party, huh? Yeah, that's how the system works." They're like, "No, it's a quasi government." They didn't know. People that bank managers didn't really understand it or what the implications were. So I was just freaking out. I was like, "My gosh, this is going to collapse. We're on the brink of an economic collapse." This is in 2006, 2007, and these home prices were getting out of control. We need to go to gold and silver. This is the only answer. So I found, these videos that explained. Early on was Bill Still's video uh, talking about the Federal Reserve, uh, secrets of money, and we were reading the books from G. Edward Griffin, and this was the grand awakening for those that were at that time. And I was just like, my gosh. So I started to design software that would help people get out of debt, and then anything gold and silver related, I was going to go there. And so Disney was going through cycles. They had some layoffs. I was hoping I would be included in those layoffs because I wanted to launch into my financial software. So from there, I did that. And then from that platform, I was looking for anybody that had a gold and silver solution. And so I was involved in my local politics. I was on the planning commission for my city. I started to design my own monetary system. I said, we got to have our own localized currency because I could see this is not going to be something that was going to end well. And so uh, at one of these presentations that I helped establish, I met a guy named Larry Hilton who was promoting something that happened in Utah, where Utah was the first state in the union in 100 years to recognize gold and silver as constitutional money. And so after his presentation, I said, "Larry, where do we start? How do we get this thing going? I've got guys I pay, freelance work, and do these things. I want to start paying them in gold and silver. How do we do it?" He's like, "Well, let's get together." So he and I co-founded United Precious Metals Association. He had called it Utah Precious Metals Association, but we were going to do it the way where we start actually doing it. So he and I created the bylaws, and then he formed his for-profit. I stayed on the nonprofit, but then I was the first one or the second one to deposit, and everybody was so scared to do this back then that I had to literally talk my guys to do it. But even though they're awake to all the same stuff, I'm like, come on, guys, please do this. So with me being the first one and then two other members, we launched in this, and it was to help people use and transact in gold and silver. So I'm the co-founder of UPMA, and I've been the chairman of the board for 11 years up till this last time where I stepped down to be the vice chair while we're trying to keep that going. And in the meantime, they established that. It was called North America Monetary Exchange. And Larry kind of did the for-profit stuff, and then that ended up kind of morphing into something called Alpine Gold. Anyway, during this time, my studio was called Attraction Studios. If you type in Attraction Studios, you'll probably find it still out there. Some of the things we did, I would do commercials. I did virtual reality worlds. I was still doing, that was kind of my freelance kind of business job because people still wanted me to do these art projects. But then I was like, you know what? We need to do a gold crypto. So this is in 2016. I was like, okay. And there wasn't one out there. And they didn't like, Larry didn't like crypto. He didn't want to do crypto. He says, we can't do it, security. And he was my attorney for the company. But I kept pushing the issue. And I was like, we've got to do a gold-backed crypto. And so I approached him, and then we met with Jonathan Johnson on line because he was the CEO of Overstock, and he was the first one to really adopt Bitcoin as an exchange on their program. And I knew like we could just white label it, and then have them do that, and we could start doing an exchange for gold and silver. And so we get on these calls with them, and Larry would just no, we can't do this. We can't do this. There's too many problems. And then after like the third call, I'm like, Larry, we just this is not anything different than having a receipt for our exchange.
Yeah.
And then he got it. He's like, oh my gosh, you're right. And anyways, and so he got on board with that finally, and he kind of took it over, to be honest with you. And he kind of overstepped what Jonathan Johnson's group was doing, and he hired some of his friends and family. But then I was in the middle of that entire thing, designing it, putting the logo up, doing it. A lot of volunteer hours, mostly volunteer hours, to try and do that. And then there was this kind of involvement with Namex. Well, it was just UPMA at the time. It was just United Precious Metals, and there was just this big kind of thing. And then as they were promoting this, Jeremy Corden, who was running UPMA at the time, had brought home from a conference promoting Quintric. It was called Quintric. And he found this little Trump gold note done by Valorum. And he showed it to Larry. He's like, look at this cool gold note. That'd be cool. And Larry saw this, and he and I got together, and we came up with something he called Quint, which we had a 1, a 5, a 10, a 25, a 50 as a series that we could do. And what we wanted to do was put that amount of gold in it so it would match up. So I did the artwork. We did the designs. I put my stuff together, and he wanted to start out with the gold note. Now, the technology at the time didn't allow us, and they didn't have the funding to do this with Quintric, to put the actual amount that it said. So he wanted to tokenize it. So we created what I would call the first, what you guys know now as Goldback. Jeremy hated that idea, believe it or not. And he's like, what are we spending all this money for? And I would say Larry's model for it was not correct. And we tried to tell him he was wanting to go to Ireland, and he sent his nieces and his sister or his daughter to have 2 months in Ireland. And they were going around to businesses. Hey, do you want to take this as money? This is the, and if you look at the Quintric note, it was called, anyways, this original note, they're very rare, and he couldn't sell any. And I says, well, Larry, let me sell them. Let me give them to him. They wouldn't do it. And it was a significant enough investment in gold that I believe Jeremy ultimately melted them down or threw them away or something. But before he did all of that, and I don't remember exactly, but there was a lot of them that were ultimately destroyed. But in the process of them trying to figure out, I say, hey, we gotta figure out our ownership and all this stuff. They asked me to actually leave that whole venture. He says, Abe, just go compete with us. It sounds like you want to do your own thing. I said, no, I just want to be partners on this so that we're on equal footing. And there was some really interesting inside baseball that I know, and I won't go into that too much. But in the end, they wanted me to not participate anymore. Let's just put it that way. I says, fine. And so you got to do your thing, but you guys know I'm doing the entire Quintric organization and design stuff. This is going to fall apart as soon as I leave. Like, no, we got it. We're going to raise all this money and do all this thing. Well, what I told them came true. When I exited, it's like, okay, they just don't want to work with me. That's fine. So they brought some investors in to try and woo them. And what they were handing them out as kind of a present was some of these Quintric notes. These Quint, and they freaked out when they saw them. They're like, what is this? And during that time, Jeremy really wanted to do his own thing from Larry too. And all of a sudden he fell in love with these gold notes. And so he started giving them away. He started sending our employees out to his employees, I guess, out to the UPMA employees to out promote this gold note. And if they signed up, they would get one. And they were talking about what he was going to do. And so I'll give credit to Jeremy. He's such a good marketer, just boldly going out. And he's just selling the story. And so technically, and they use the same system. And so the Goldback original logo was Utah logo. So my team, we created the Goldback logo. I supported them a little bit. They gave me a little bit of equity for some of my troubles, and then they leveraged that to do the first series, and they got that off the ground. So that's kind of my history with Goldbacks. And then what was fun was, even after that was created, I talked to them about, hey, can we do a limited edition series with that original note? So Larry allowed us to do a Goldback, which I would say that is the original precursor to Goldback, in a limited edition series. It was a 1/200th ounce note. It was colored on both sides. If you see them out there, I think we only did like 4,000 of them. I have a couple of them that are graded. Larry wanted 4 of them, but he made me put Goldback on there, just so if you find one, it will say Goldback on it. And those instantly sold out. And in the meantime, I started my own Gold Note series, because they asked me to stop, to do my own thing. So I did my own series. So I created Oz Notes, and they're more in the collectible range. They didn't want me to do state money or whatever and compete with them. And I says, that's no, fine, whatever. So I'm doing my own thing. But before that, I met somebody who used to own a mint. And so I vowed that anything related to gold and silver, I was going to go that direction. And so it's kind of a spiritual thing for me, because I felt inspired that I needed to go that way and associate with people in the gold and silver industry. And so when people approach me with another gold idea, I was like, okay, yes, I kind of have to do this. This is my agreed to, part of natural law that I talked about. I agreed to do this. And so he says, well, I used to own Romney Precious Metals out of Payson, Utah, but then I sold it to a group out of Las Vegas, but they never paid me for it. So it's mothballed in this warehouse. And at that time, I started an energy company, if you can believe it, as a windmill company. And he was the one that was a manufacturer. And I kept having this thing in my mind. Do I want to start a mint? Do I have to start a mint? I just ignored it. But the universe, or whatever you want to call it, Providence, just forced me down that channel and says, you got one option, Abe, start a mint. I was like, I got to raise capital somehow. So I asked my brother, I says, Jake, my brother, he's a military colonel. He's a lieutenant colonel in the Army. Says, do you want to help me with this? And he says, you know what, Abe? Entrepreneurs are the spirit point. I just read a book, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I'll be your first investor. So he gave me 10 grand to start, and then he helped me get this building. And then with that leverage, I was able to just, raise enough money to just snowball this, get the equipment coming in right before COVID hit. So this is in January of 2020 is when we started. And I knew this would be hard. So I had done some foundry work when I was going through college doing bronze art statues. So the shop wasn't that scary to me, but I said, well, let's go for it. And so we moved this big equipment in. He gave me a couple of hours worth of training once we got it up, and I had to figure out everything from the ground up: how to make casters work, how to set up electrical systems, how to set up plumbing systems, how to use this giant equipment, how to set dies, how to create and then how to fix things. I remember looking at the machinery when we were getting set up, and it was the perfect time to do this, by the way. We got a little PPE money from the government when they needed to, but there's no traffic on the streets. Everybody was home, but construction was open, so I could ask all these questions. But I had to learn when this screw breaks on this thing, how do I replace this? How in the world do I know how to fix this equipment? There was one time that the core of a minting for me was this caster, and this caster it has to work. If you can't melt the silver, you can't make it. And we were starting to do small loads with smaller casters that they would break down after about 10 uses. And I would try everything day and day night, trying wires, changing equipment on this thing to make it work. And I had a time limit before I had to get the funding totally together so that we could purchase the equipment. And I was getting pressure from the owner and says, hey, I've got an offer for this mint to buy it right now, and I'm going to take this out if you can't get this by this date. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I remember this night, and it was this one piece of equipment. I could not turn it on. He didn't know what was going on with it. Well, he said it should work. It should work. And I spent so much money and time in this. I just, how are we going to get this started? And so I literally said a prayer before I left this night. I was up there midnight or 12. I was like, so you're getting delirious when you're so tired trying to figure this out, and nothing's working. And and then it was just out there torn apart. I was like, okay. And I had some inspiration. It says, turn on the water. And okay. And I just had this thought, turn on the water. So I turned on this water hose. And the worst thing happened that I could possibly think of. The hoses were not connected to the machine. And so
Oh
on
no.
this machine that has 50,000 watts of energy, and this transformer is so crazy, sucks all this power out, three-phase, power going to the thing. Water starts squirting all over it. And I'm like, crap. Well, so I turn it off. I'm like, well, that was a weird thought to have, but I did it. And so as I'm walking out, I said, well, should I turn it on? And I was like, okay, I have nothing to lose at this point. I've got like days. I got like a month away before my deadlines, and I've got to figure this thing out. So I just turned it on. And it was the first time it turned on. It went whoomp, and it shut off. Whoomp, and it shut off. I was like, what in the world? How is this even working? Now, I didn't know what happened. What happened is that the water had connected a wire that was supposed to be connected through the water in a way that tried the connection, because it connected. And so I filmed it. Like, I got the stupid thing on. We had replaced everything we could think of. And we had the manufacturer, and trying to talk to somebody in Scotland during COVID was like, it's like, they're like, okay, I have time for 3 questions. Okay, your time is up. Bye. I got to go. I'm like, we'll get you a new transformer. That's another $50,000. Anyway, so it came down to, because that worked, we knew that it worked. And we were missing some stupid small little thing. Literally, it came down to one wire that when they delivered it, the person who delivered it took the wire from one thing and had stuck it in the wrong hole.
Oh my gosh.
One wire, one little brown wire. But because I listened to that inspiration, that led me, within 2 days, I had it solved. I could not believe it. So in the strangest ways, right? And so we got that turned on. Once that was turned on, we had a starting place. And then from then, it was the beginning. But I was able to bring in a few group. It's funny when you get desperate. And this is what I'm grateful for. So there's a scripture, like, if you're Christian, everybody's goal is to, establish God's kingdom on earth or whatever, right? And I like that but there's the qualifier for it. For those that are ready for this world, if you want to do it the right way, you have to be pure in heart. And I wanted to know what pure in heart meant, so I did some research. This is way past this time, but what pure in heart means is, if you want to do this work, right, is you have to be willing to be pruned. And because if you're trying to be from the true source, you kind of grow in the directions you grow in life, right? I want to do this. I want to do this. We all have our own will, right? I want to do this. But if you want to be part of sorry, let me turn this light on. That's all right. If you want to be part of this world, you have to be willing to be cut down. So, and the reason that you want to be cut down is so that you can grow in the direction you're supposed to go and produce more fruit. And so I, without those cutting down points, I don't think you have the pressure that you need to grow out. And so by going this direction, it has led to so many talent sets that I had no idea to do. And by the way, I thought I was sacrificing my art career and anything I'd learned from Disney, but in the end, yes, I got those cut off right off the bat. I ended up learning everything about the business, and now I'm using every single art skill, design thing, and more because I realized that this industry is not just minting, it's creating art for coins and notes. And so it's just an outpouring. I can't possibly use. So it's just this outpouring of artistic things. And I grew completely new talent sets that I would never have gained had I not gone this direction. So learning how to do equipment, how to fix equipment. So not only did I learn that we had to the whole minting, I had to learn chemistry, how gold and silver works, what is truly gold, how to melt gold, how to refine gold, how to refine silver, how to fix machines, how to find equipment, how to find partners and talent sets here in Utah that can manufacture equipment. So right now we have what I learned in manufacturing. You have to fix everything. Everything breaks. You cannot rely on equipment 100%. You have to rely on the ability to build up equipment. So I had to learn how to fix equipment, how to find. So this whole and then how to run business and how to meet people and and manage employees. So from this it has exploded. So I'm like maxed out in what I can possibly do. But I also am probably one of the few people on this earth that knows these verticals from making. I know how to make gold backs from the ground up. I know how to do gold notes. I know how to do silver coins. We need to know how to make dies. Maybe I'm one of the only ones on the earth that knows that vertical. I don't just hire people to do this. I had to learn it myself so that we could do that. And so now that we know that, now we're just barely getting started because now we've spent 6 years doing this now, and we're so much further ahead when we started. I cannot believe how hard that we are at where we're at. But from the beginning, it was just a nightmare. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. I hope that.
Yeah. No, it's an incredible story. It's an incredible story. And you're one of the few people that I've met that actually started minting and refining before they started selling bullion, which I think is amazing. Your story about wanting to learn how to make it. And with that experience and you knowing the entire vertical from beginning to end, like what do you think about what is going on in today's silver and gold markets? I mean, if we're looking at the price today, we've been hitting all-time highs. Like every day, we're at right now $4,597 in gold and $87 and 88 cents in silver. Right?
Yes.
Um, you know, silver prices are over $88 for the first time in history. In the last 13 months, silver is up 210%. And do you think silver is going to hit $100 per ounce before January? Like, what is it? What do you think is going on in the markets, and what can you share with our audience? Some insights from being a refiner, being a mint that we as dealers or laymen don't know.
Yeah. So, yeah, silver and gold's really really cool, and it's part of our fabric. And there's a lot of reasons why people don't know gold and silver. It's been stolen from us. That knowledge has been stolen, but it's always been there. And what I've learned about gold and silver is the first thing I like to think about when you're like, what is the value of it? You want to talk about the properties of what it is, right? So silver, for those of you may not know this, I didn't when I first started. Even though I had started the United Precious Metals, I didn't know that it was the most electrically conductive metal that there is. There's no metal that is more electrically conductive than silver. There's none that's more reflective. There's none that is more heat conductive. And so silver in and of itself is one of the most valuable industrial metals there is, especially when we're in a battery technology world. I can't remember if it was Mercedes-Benz or somebody did a silver battery set that they had a kilo of silver in there, and they were able to recharge it in like 5 minutes, and then it goes up 600 miles. It's just, and there's nothing better than that. So industrially, silver has lots of uses, but also silver was the definition of a dollar when our country was established. It was not a
Yep.
gold standard. We were a silver standard. And the reason is for that it's way more plentiful on earth than gold. So naturally it's 13 to 16 times more plentiful than gold. And and so it's the people's money. We had it available, and the largest mining operation of silver to this day is in Mexico. So when we were established in our country, they defined it as 325.91 grains of silver. It was what a dollar was. Like, where do we get the word dollar? But it was silver, and people loved it because it maintained its value. And what's fun is it was they would divide it in those pieces of eight, like that middle thing shows. And if you wanted a shave and a haircut, it was 2 bits, which is that quarter. So quarters are called bits, right? When I was a kid, old people say, "Hey, give me a bit," but it comes from this system. And so you could take any silver you had in your hand, you could take it to the mint, and they would mint it into a coin, and you had your dollar. But that changed after the Civil War. And when they introduced gold dollars into the United States, they valued it at 10 to 1 to silver. So they said, okay, $1 gold is 10 silver dollars. And then the ratio started changing a little bit because they realized there was a little bit more silver than gold. And so by the time we went to a gold standard after the Civil War, it was more like 16 to 1 and then 20 to 1. And then now, and there's a lot of history there too, but some lost knowledge in between the 1930s and now. But in reality, it ended up being about 50 to 1. So when Ronald Reagan brought back the gold standard in 1986, he pegged silver at $50 was the gold dollar, and it was 50, and then $1 was $1. So it's 50 to 1 ratio. So that ratio, I think, has a historic kind of weight to it that I think you should kind of take into consideration. I spoke with somebody who used to work at the mint, really smart, and he's pretty good at prediction. He says, watch that ratio. So if in order for gold and silver to kind of tether together, make sure that you understand that that has been a historic ratio. And so if gold goes up, silver will go up now. And if silver is going to go up higher than that ratio, he thinks it's going to have a harder time to do that without gold going up. And so that could actually help you with the gold positions too. But I've told people for this last 6 years that the ratio is totally off. It was 100 to 1 to silver. And if you look at that debt clock website, it will show you how many silver dollars are being traded, or silver is being traded versus the fake silver that doesn't exist on paper. And it was hovering at 400 to 1 forever. And gold was trading at about 200 to 1 reality versus what's available. And since silver is more affordable than gold, it was one I tell people, this is the biggest bet. Get on the train. What was $24 an ounce? I'm like, the train is not here, guys. Please get on. And it was long enough. If something's 2 or 3 years, boy, see this ratio, it has gone up so much. It was 200 to 1, then
Yeah.
100 to 1. See, here we're at 54 to 1. So he told me that there might be a little bit of resistance to that. So think about that ratio. Right now, it's still not 50 to 1. But will it go to 100%? Because silver and gold is a hedge against inflation.
Yep.
It's money. Okay, it can be instantly exchanged as money. It's an investment. It's money because you can't get taxed on it too. So there's no buy sell. So how do I explain this? They can't tax you on silver as a property tax. Okay, so it's real property that you can't tax because it also is money, and then it's a store of value because it keeps the value. And then the fourth thing is it's real estate. So it's literally a piece of ground, and so because of those features, businesses are now, for example, putting their logos on there because they can write them off as an asset for their business, but it's also an advertisement for their business. And so we're
Yeah.
seeing a lot of people, new people are waking up to this, especially because it's gained 200% in 1 year. We're going to get the whole investment class coming in there. Plus, you have the huge demand in the industry for silver. So it's, I think it could go a lot closer to the 16-to-1 ratio in nature, or 13-to-1. I think if you Google it, I think it's 13-to-1. So I mean, so there's plenty of realm in there, but then you on top of that have the regular inflation rate because we're still in a fiat system.
Yeah.
So as long as they keep printing money, as long as they keep doing quantitative easing, and as long as they can't cheat, that silver is going to go higher and go into triple digits. Based on the money supply, silver should already be out in the hundreds of dollars. Gold should be in the
Yeah.
tens of thousands of dollars, right? So all those pressures are going to come off. In fact, I was trying to find anyone who would lend me just money so that I could just get a pile of silver at the beginning of this year, and then pay them a really high percentage rate just to sit it there. But every time I told them, like, well, why don't I just do silver myself? And they would talk a big talk, but did they do it? No, they did not. And it's a sad thing because they would have a windfall profit from me just because, like, hey, can you please? It's so high. Would you let me? Like, yeah, sure, yeah. We should, I'm a nice guy. We would make sure that everybody wins. But yeah, so yeah, is it going to go up? Yes. Is there going to be a dip? Is there going to be a correction? Maybe, and maybe watch for that.
Yeah.
Because people get fearful, and when there's profits high enough, there's always that group that says, "I'm going to take them now," right, and tank it. Or there's going to be investment. I've noticed every time there's really good opportunities for stock, they'll sell their hard assets and then go to stock and trading. And so there's going to be a little of that.
Yeah.
But you can say that this has always been a safe bet. This is the year it's really sexy, right? Because it's going up twice and 200%. I mean, that's crazy.
And,
For extra
and
money, right?
yeah, and it can keep going up. Typically in these bull markets, we see gold and silver double, and then double again. Sometimes
Yes.
going up thousands of percent. And we have seen three doubles, 30 to 60 down to 90, right?
Yep.
So we still have one or two more doubles to go in this bull market. Now,
Well, and I tell everybody that, like, just in general, 25% to 30% of your savings need to be gold and silver,
yeah,
regardless. And if you
yeah.
worry about when you should buy silver, don't. Just buy it, and then
Dollar
dollar
cost
cost average
average.
it over time, because the average is just going to go up. So just
Yep.
buy it when you have money.
Yep.
Well, it's not really
Exactly.
buying. Trade it. It's across the board. Trade it for this kind of money to this kind of money.
Or play the gold silver ratio, right? Like in my coin shop today, I had people bring in gold to buy silver, and some people bring in their silver to buy gold. Play that gold silver ratio, however you want to do it,
Yes.
to grow your holdings, right? Instead of going into dollars, go into the other metal and grow your stack. It's kind of like that's kind of the idea. So as a mint and refiner, what can you say about the fact that refiners are taking so long to send out checks for bringing in, let's say, sterling or constitutional? What is going on behind the scenes? Why are so many refiners either turning away sterling and constitutional or anything that isn't pure 999? Is there any like credence to the idea that there isn't enough like nitric acid, or they're just so inundated with silver that they can't keep up? What's going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, it's mainly just those that had capacity before they had a certain boundary, because there's a lot of cash that you have to have in cash flow, and when you max out on that and max out on that and max out on that, eventually you do saturate the market to where it's just backed up for months, and people need to work now and get things going now. And so it's just like any kind of market force. They weren't expecting this kind of capacity. And also this last 2 years has been unprecedented for people wanting to cash out on their metals, because for two reasons. We've been in a recession. We've been in a absolute horrible economic fallout, and just people are looking, and this is a good thing for them. They did have this precious metals, so many people are cashing in to these record high prices. I mean, you got to think about how they've been suppressed with these things. I had somebody that bought somebody for one of these online gold things, and they bought like Morgan's back when silver was $13 an ounce or something, or $7 an
Mm,
ounce, and they charged them $34 for a Morgan.
mm.
Say one day they're going to be valuable. And every time he would come to me, he's like, "Hey, can I turn these in? Did I make an investment?" And it was like 12 years ago. So now I could finally go over to him and say, "Hey, dude, your silver finally made it back." And so I
Yeah.
think there was a lot of people that had silver and gold, and it's been, just kind of hovering. And right when it went $50 an ounce in 2011, and it would crash down to to 17, $14 an ounce. And so people were caught in a lot of these kind of high positions because you bought when it got the excitement. So I think that a lot of people are seeing the value and then seeing all this sterling silver that they have, and they're just turning it in droves. And so it's just this huge backlog. It'll absolutely get caught up. People will find the bandwidth, and so this is only, I would say this is limited time, but right now, yeah, it's a challenging part right now, and they're finding business to take it, and people won't, and then they're offering too little for it relative to the price of gold, and so a lot of people say, well, I'll just store it, but then if I can get it refined quickly, so that's kind of where we're at with that. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes complete sense. And I'm wondering, I know now, but I was wondering, like, where did you come up with the Oz Mint? Why Oz? Why do you have the Emerald City in your background? Can you tell people about that?
Yes, and this is one of the most fascinating stories. And when I tell it, you'll think this is fake, but this is a real story. So Oz, okay, Oz is actually the symbol for ounces. Okay, and when you hear that, you're like, wait a second, the Wizard of Ounces, the wonderful Wizard of Ounces. Is that real? Yes, it is real. So the Wizard of Oz and its derivatives is still the number one story in America today. Like it's the one of the number one movies of this year and last year. And why is it in our consciousness? And I know why, because the symbolism in the original story was done on purpose. So this was in the 1890s when Frank Baum wrote this book, and it was during a time after the Civil War when they banned silver as money. It was called the Crime of 1873. And if you look at that date, Ulysses S. Grant banned silver as money, the regular silver that everybody had, the one that is the dollar, the definition of the dollar, the one that everybody had, they could no longer use unless it was specially minted by the mint and it was authorized. Otherwise, you couldn't take it. And so all these creditors and bankers were like, we can't take silver. We want gold. And nobody had gold. But during the Civil War, they invented the greenback. It was Salmon Chase, who was Secretary of the Treasury, says, Abraham Lincoln didn't know how to pay for the war. And he said, well, I know how to do it. He said, well, how? He says, we just print it and tell everybody they have to do it with an executive order. He's like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, that's what I have to do. And so he designed the first green note. I think it was a $5 note. And it was called the greenback. And so you know about goldbacks, right? But this is the greenback. And then that's where they paid their soldiers, and that's how they ran the war. So after the war, it was such a good thing. People loved that so much in the banking community. It was a credit. You don't have to, because when you have those green notes, you don't necessarily have to have anything backing them, right? So, but they had always wanted to use gold because gold is so much more valuable. And hardly any normal of us plebeian serfs, right? Us normal people, we can't afford having ounces and ounces of gold sitting around the house because it's so much more valuable and because it's so much more rare. And so these bankers after the war had Ulysses S. Grant sign an executive order saying that no longer is silver the dollar. And so they called it the Crime of 73, like I was mentioning, and it caused a worldwide depression. And then all of these bankers and creditors were asking for gold and silver, and it was squeezing the American people. And it caused a massive deflation in the 1890s. And so people says, this is enough. We're going to do this Make America Silver Again movement. They called it the Free Silver Movement. It was an historic thing in the 1890s that happened. And, all the elite people are like, it's going to cause inflation. We want to do this. So Frank Baum, he's a playwright and he's politically active. He's like, I am going to write a story about what is happening now, and it's called The Wizard of Oz Ounces, and it's about Dorothy, who's the she's the quintessential Midwestern girl who's caught up in this gray economy, and she gets sucked up in this tornado storm and lands into the land of Oz and lands her house on this wicked witch who has these very powerful things she's controlling on her feet. And that enables her to walk and step on everybody, all the little munchkins, all the little people. Well, in the movie that they created in the 30s, MGM Studios changed what those shoes were. So we all think that they were ruby slippers, but if you read the book to this day, you'll find that they are silver shoes. So these silver shoes, when she put them on, that was symbolically America taking the money, the power of money, back into the hands of the people. And then she could walk the yellow brick road, which is the gold standard that they established where all commerce was transacted. And then she thought that the answers were in Emerald City here, right? Where the Wizard of Ounces was. And so she begins her journey to discover really that she has the power already. As soon as she put those shoes on, she has the power of money. So when she came across the straw man, the scarecrow, crucified, without a brain, no ability, not even real, she brought life into him so that he had brains and could run his business, his farms, because that was happening in America. Nobody can run their businesses if you know this. You don't have capital, you're stuck. If you can't get loans, you can't get SBA loans. What are you going to do, right? You have to raise private money. And then if people don't have private money because somebody stole their silver, that's a problem, right? So the Wicked Witch stole the silver, and so she took it back in this show or in this story, and then she's able to bring life to the farmer. And then when she meets the Tin Man, he's frozen. He has all the assets, but they're frozen assets. But magically, she's able to get him unstuck and give him grease and oil to run again and move and have the heart to work again. And they're still thinking that that's not the answer, but she is the answer, right? And so as she goes along the path, she meets the lion, who is scared. He's the king of the jungle. These are our leaders. And why are they scared? Because these wicked people have controlled the money. And the other wicked witch who wanted the silver back was a witch that wore a gold cap. In the book, she's wearing a gold cap on her hat. When I heard the overall story, but then I was like, is there more information? When you read the story, she's not wearing a witch's hat. She's wearing a gold cap. And so that's the gold. She's controlling the gold. But how is she controlling the gold when it's the gold standard? Well, when you corner gold, so the flying monkeys is what that hat represented in the book. So the flying monkeys are the ones that own the gold cap. And you're like, what a gold cap? What does the flying monkeys represent? Well, the flying monkeys represent the power that gold has. Okay, so gold has this forceful power, like a flying monkey can go anywhere. It's portable. He has the gold, makes the rules. He has the flying monkeys, makes the rules. And so that gave her the power to control the flying monkeys. Give them 3 wishes in the book. And so in real life, it enabled them to if they're cornering the gold market, then they can leverage that on anybody and be a bully to anybody. You give me gold, oh, I have the gold. I have the rules. We're doing this everybody's afraid of them. Now the wizard has, when you went to the land of Oz, okay, where everybody thought he had the answers, first thing he has you do in the book is he has you put green glasses on. And that's in the book. So Dorothy's got the silver, the other witch has the gold, and this guy has the green. And it's not real green. It's just what you see when you put the glasses on. And so that's the greenback. And so that's how they're solving the monetary issue. But in reality, it doesn't have any real power behind that. Just like today, the cash isn't going to be king. It's going to be the gold and silver. And so he can't really defeat the wish. And so he gives Dorothy the opposite. Well, I will help you. I will solve your problems. But you got to kill that wish first so that I know who I'm dealing with. So Dorothy does that. Very easily, actually. She just throws currency and liquidity on the witch, money, so that she had no power anymore. And so the gold cap, when she used that power, which would happen in real life, to have that money, then the power, the raw power of gold was now the raw power of gold. It was in the hands of the gold itself, which is the flying monkeys. And so that's all symbolic. Anyway, she goes back to the Wizard of Oz, and all he can do is he's just a flim flam. He's just a humbug, as they call it in the book. And then he just inflates away in his inflation balloon. That's what you do with green money, right? And so in the end, Dorothy is the one that got her back home with her silver shoes. But the
Yeah.
story was meant to be an allegory for the people to support this movement. And what's ironic about that, it is true to this day that if you want your power back, you got to have gold and silver on your feet.
Absolutely. No, that's amazing story. I knew some of that, but then when you shared that with me this weekend, I mean, I was blown. I love the balloon is inflation. That was kind
Isn't that
of
crazy?
cool. It's a fantastic book, and I mentioned to you that in Florida, the Wizard of Oz Museum exists near Cocoa Beach and Cape Canaveral. So you got to bring your family to the museum of the Wizard of Oz, and let's see. I'm curious
Okay,
to
well,
see if they
who
actually.
wants to be my distributor? Look at my silver shoe notes. It's the first one in this series that I'm doing, and get them into that thing. I will give you the wholesale price, and let's get them sold in that place.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely. I mean,
they'll sell them because it's an absolute win for them because it tells the real story, and most people do not know the real story. I mean, they still think it's a silver shoe. So let's see, is it on the main site? Just I don't know if I had a partner that has recently left that he was doing this website. This is not the latest stuff that we have. So if you go to Osnos, maybe it'll be on
Oz
the front.
knows
There it is on the on sale price there.
right. This one right here.
Oh, right there. Yeah. I don't know why it's on sale, but anyways, these are limited edition, and I actually have a super limited edition. There's 2,000 of the super limited editions, and this is there's only 20,000 of these. I think there's 13,000 remaining, or 12. I think we just counted 12. And I haven't really marketed these, but this is Dorothy putting on her silver shoes. This is a silver note, just like a silverback. They're calling them the same technology. I have an exclusive with this group to do these. They have to do my stuff as part of that agreement when I was talking about that original story. And so, so if there's some distributors that want to, make a deal with that Wizard of Oz thing, I will supply you because we want
That's
to. Because
awesome.
I want to do the next one in the series.
Yeah,
So these are all
absolutely.
serialized, and once they're gone, they're gone.
And I think Citizens for Sound Money. When we're carrying Kinesis Orums, we're carrying Goldbacks, we're carrying Metalmark. We'd love to carry Oz notes too. So we'd love to put that in our store.
I am for a choice. When I co-founded UPMA, United Precious Metals Association, our goal is as a choice in currency, a choice in money,
Yeah,
and so we want a choice. We don't want new monopolies. We
yeah,
want people to choose, and what they want to do, and have those values. And so there's a numismatic values. These are more collectibles, but it's a choice. Those are 1/400th of an ounce of silver. It's about double what the other silver notes are. I did that on purpose. But anyways, but the real meaning is the story, because this is our story. Everyone should want to know that story because it's ours. That's why we keep going back to it. But we
it's
don't
a
know that.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful history lesson in allegory. Like when I first learned about it, I was interested. But I mean, when you really open up all the details, man, I'm gonna go actually buy the book and read it myself now because I want to see all the metaphors and how it's all connected.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. I disbelieved it at first too. And I was like, and there's a lot of people that use the Wizard of Oz as for other mysteries and other things. But remember, this is half the economy. Half the economy is money. And
Yeah,
it's the soundest money that we have been able to discover. If there were a better metal for money than gold and silver, we'd be talking about it.
yeah,
This is God's money. He created it. This is an element that we have, and the properties of these things are amazing, and like nothing else. And gold and silver in conjunction with each other complement each other. For all the electronics that are made with silver, they always coat gold on the most important parts, because gold does not decay. It does not oxidize. You can put gold in a vat of acid in the sea for 1,000 years, does nothing. Only
yeah.
certain. Sorry, my light just keeps turning off. There we go.
No worries.
About to
Well,
It's the beer.
This was great, man. A great history about gold backs. Your company, Osmint, Oz Bullion, the history behind the first Orem, the first gold back, and what you're doing with the Wizard of Oz and the Oz Notes. Is there any last words you want to share with our audience before we end the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, I think we are in a new gold and silver age now that silver has been allowed out. The reason why I foresaw this is because I saw Trump holding people accountable on some level. And so, just because of that, it's going to unleash the power, the true power of gold and silver. So, just whoever you are and wherever you are, just start collecting it. There's the big thing that's coming in, I think, from what we saw at the coin show, there's going to be fractionals. The value is always in the silver. People will say, well, how am I going to eat gold and how am I going to trade this silver coin when it comes down to it? Well, the same way as they always are. You're going to break it in little parts and you're going to weigh it. And everybody's going to be an expert at silver and gold really quick. It's not that hard. You're going to take it to a mint to get the full value of it and put back into coins. This is something that's going to be everlasting and evergreen. So, well, I should say ever gold, right? We don't want it to be green, but
Yeah.
you got my meaning. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
and if there's anything I can do for you guys to reach out, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Abe, thank you so much for coming on Sound Money Matters Live. We are going to have another broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, on Tuesday of next week, and we'll have a premiere this Friday. And if you have not done so yet, please go ahead and join Citizens for Sound Money on YouTube or go to our website at citizensforsoundmoney.org and join our Pioneer membership. It's just $25 a year, or you can join one of our tiers on YouTube. Once we get to 25 members, we will have private broadcasts for our members on YouTube. Well, Abe, thank you so much for coming out tonight. And everybody, God bless you all. And we will see you on the next live stream of Sound Money Matters Live. God bless everybody.